text came in at 11:47 on a Tuesday night. Isla Thornton almost didn't check it. She had been sitting at the kitchen table with a glass of Riesling and a stack of permit applications that needed her signature by morning, the kind of administrative work she always saved for late hours, when the house was quiet and her mind finally stopped racing. The notification appeared at the edge of her screen. A tagged photo from someone named Brooke Whitfield. She didn't know anyone named Brooke Whitfield. She tapped it anyway. The photo had been posted to a public lifestyle account with 43,000 followers. It showed a woman, young, maybe 26, with the kind of effortless blonde hair that takes genuine effort, lying across a bed in what looked like a hotel suite. She was holding a glass of champagne toward the camera, grinning with the particular confidence of someone who believes she is winning something. Behind her, on the nightstand, was a watch, a Movado with a cracked crystal. A watch Isla had given her husband Callum for their 7th anniversary. She recognized the crack because she'd always meant to get it repaired and never had. She put her wine down. She looked at the photo for a long time. Then she went to bed, turned off the light, and lay there in the dark, next to a man who was already asleep, listening to him breathe. Callum Thornton was 41, a commercial real estate developer who worked out of a downtown Toronto office and spent at least 3 nights a week in Calgary for a mixed-use project he'd been overseeing for the better part of 2 years. That was the explanation for the absences. That was always the explanation. Isla had never questioned it, not once, because she trusted him, and because she was not, by nature, a suspicious person. She ran a small urban planning consultancy she'd built from nothing. She coached their daughter Marin's Sunday soccer team. She organized the neighborhood's annual winter fundraiser. She was, in other words, someone with too much to do and too little reason to look for problems that hadn't announced themselves. This one had. In the morning, she got Marin off to school, dropped their son Felix at her mother-in-law's for the day, and sat back down with her laptop. She didn't panic. She didn't cry, not yet. She researched. She spent 3 hours reading everything publicly posted by Brooke Whitfield. Lifestyle content, travel photos, tagged locations. Calgary, yes, many times. But also Toronto. Twice in the last 4 months, once just 3 weeks ago. The same week, Callum had told Isla he was staying downtown for a conference. He had not been at a conference. She called her best friend Philippa Drummond, who was a family law paralegal, and who arrived at Isla's house within the hour, carrying a coffee tray and a very still, very measured expression that meant she already understood the gravity of things. "How long?" Philippa asked. "I don't know," Isla said. "At least 2 years. Maybe more." They sat together in the kitchen and didn't speak for a while. Outside, the February light was flat and white over the back garden, and a cardinal was moving through the bare branches of the ash tree, the only color in the whole yard. "What do you want to do?" Philippa asked finally. Isla turned her coffee cup in her hands. "I don't want to ask him, not yet." "Then what?" She didn't answer right away. She was looking at the cardinal. "I want to understand exactly what I'm dealing with," she said, "before I do anything." She hired a private investigator. Not because she needed more proof. The watch in the photo was proof enough. But because she needed the kind of documentation that would hold up in a lawyer's office, the kind that couldn't be dismissed as paranoia or misidentification. It cost her $4,000 in 12 days. At the end of it, she had photographs, a hotel receipt, and a timeline that went back 27 months. 27 months. Marin had been 7 when it started. Felix had just turned 4. She sat with that number for a long time before she let herself feel it. When she did, she went into the bathroom, closed the door, and cried for about 20 minutes. The kind of crying that is less about sadness than about the body finally releasing something it has been holding without permission. Then she washed her face, looked at herself in the mirror for a moment, and went back to the kitchen table. She called her lawyer that afternoon. Zara Osei was sharp, methodical, and had known Isla since they were in the same grad school cohort at the University of Toronto. She didn't offer sympathy so much as clarity, which was exactly what Isla needed. "Your position is strong," Zara said. "Primary caregiver, co-founder of the household income, no prenuptial agreement. When you're ready, this is straightforward." "I'm not ready to move yet," Isla said. "There's something I need to do first." There was a pause. "What kind of something?" Isla had her laptop open. She was looking at Brooke Whitfield's Instagram page, which she had been monitoring for 2 weeks. Brooke had just posted a new photo, a flat lay of luxury skincare products arranged on a marble surface, with a caption about treating yourself like you're someone's priority, with a winking emoji. She posted from her apartment again, Isla said. I can see the street corner in the window. It's on Queen West. She runs a lifestyle and wellness brand. She does pop-up events, brand collaborations, that kind of thing. Isla, she has 43,000 followers. She's trying to grow. She pitches sponsors. Isla, what are you thinking? She closed the laptop. Nothing illegal, she said. Nothing dramatic, just proportionate. Brooke Whitfield's pop-up wellness event was scheduled for a Saturday in late March at a venue on King Street West, a bright, airy studio space that various brands rented for exactly this kind of thing. 200 tickets had been sold. There would be a vendor section, a speaker panel, and a sponsored social media wall where attendees could take photos with a branded backdrop and have them projected on a screen above the stage in real time. The screen was roughly the size of a modest billboard. The event's social media partner, the company managing the digital display, the real-time feed, and the hashtag aggregation, was a small local tech firm called Overton Digital. Isla found them through the event's promotional materials. She sent an inquiry email from a personal address, explaining that she was interested in sponsoring a slot on the digital display during the event. Overton Digital confirmed they had availability. The going rate for a 10-minute sponsored segment on the main screen was $350. She paid by e-transfer the following morning. The display segment she submitted showed nothing inflammatory. No names, no accusations. Just a clean, high-resolution graphic. Black background, white sans serif text that read, "To anyone in a relationship with a married person, his wife knows. She has always known more than you think." Underneath, in smaller text, "You deserve to know the truth too." No names, no faces, no specifics. She sent the file to Overton Digital on a Thursday. They confirmed receipt. She told no one what she had done. Not Philippa, not Zara. She drove to the event alone on Saturday morning, parked 2 blocks away, and sat in her car with a thermos of tea and a podcast she didn't actually listen to. The display ran at 11:15 a.m. during the event's peak attendance window. Isla knew this because she had looked at Brooke Whitfield's past event posts and knew the Saturday morning slot was always the busiest. Veeters set up early. Sponsors got their photos. Influencers arrived for the content. She wasn't inside the venue. She found out later, from 4 separate sources, what happened. The graphic went up mid-session, between a sponsored smoothie segment and a speaker talk about building authentic brand identity. 200 people were in that room. A significant portion of them had their phones out. Brooke Whitfield was standing at the front of the vendor section when the screen changed. Someone posted a video within minutes. The hashtag for the event was already active and heavily monitored. By early afternoon, the clip had been shared across several Toronto lifestyle and gossip accounts with a combined following of nearly 300,000 people. The comments were immediate and enthusiastic. People speculated about who the message was for. Several followers of Brooke's account made the connection. Her engagement posts over the past 2 years had featured a man whose face was always cropped or turned away, a detail many people had noticed and discussed. The man's watch appeared in one of those posts. The cracked crystal was visible. Isla did not post anything herself. She did not comment. She did not reach out to any media account. She drove home, made lunch for her children, and took them to the science center for the afternoon. Callum called her at 3:47 p.m. "Where are you?" he asked. "With the kids," she said. "Science center. Felix is obsessed with the electricity exhibit. He's been there for 45 minutes. A pause. "Can you talk?" "Not really," she said. She could hear Felix shouting about static electricity in the background. "We'll be home for dinner. Around 6. She hung up. He was home when they arrived. He had made pasta, spaghetti with jarred sauce, the only thing he could reliably cook, and the kitchen smelled like garlic bread. He was wearing the expression she recognized as the one he used when he knew he was in trouble, and had decided that charm was his best option. She thanked him for dinner. She ate with the children, asked Marin about her day, listened to Felix describe the exact mechanism by which a Van de Graaff generator worked, and cleared the table when they were finished. After the kids were in bed, She sat down across from Callum at the kitchen table. She placed a manila folder in the center of the table. He looked at it. He looked at her. "How long have you known?" he asked. "Long enough," she said. He reached for the folder. She put her hand on it. "That's my copy," she said. "Zara has another." His face changed. The charm drained out of it. What was left underneath was something more honest, tired and caught and slightly desperate. "I didn't mean for this to." "I know," she said. "You never mean for things to be what they are." He was quiet. "I'm not doing this tonight," she said. "The kids are asleep and I'm not doing this tonight. You can stay in the guest room." Monday morning, we sit down with our respective lawyers and we start figuring out the logistics. "Isla, the children stay with me," she said. It was not a question. It was not an opening for negotiation. "That's the one thing I need you to understand tonight. Everything else we can discuss on Monday. But the children stay with me, and that is not a conversation." He nodded. He looked like he might cry, which she found she had very little patience for. She went upstairs. The story broke publicly, such as it did, 3 days later, when a mid-sized Toronto lifestyle newsletter ran a piece on the incident at the wellness event. The piece was careful. It didn't name anyone. It described the sponsored message as a calculated act of quiet accountability and quoted several attendees. A contributor for a women's interest platform picked it up from there. Her piece framed it differently. A story about what women do when the institution's available to them. Silence, dignity, polite suffering. No longer feel adequate. That piece was shared 26,000 times in 48 hours. Isla's phone started ringing from numbers she didn't recognize. She didn't answer any of them. Philippa called and said, "Did you know this was going to happen?" "Not exactly," Isla said. "That's not a no." "No," she agreed. "It's not a no." Philippa laughed, a single, surprised sound. "You're terrifying," she said, with something that sounded like admiration. Brooke Whitfield's account went private the day after the newsletter piece ran. Several of her brand partnerships quietly ended over the following weeks. Isla noticed because she checked, and then she made herself stop checking. Callum moved out on a Wednesday. He took his clothes, his record collection, and the espresso machine, which she had been expecting. He left the Movado watch on the kitchen counter. She put it in the junk drawer and forgot about it. The logistics were not easy. Divorce is never easy, and anyone who tells you otherwise is either lying or has never had to explain to a 7-year-old why her father doesn't live in the house anymore. Maren took it hard initially, the way children take things hard. Not with a single dramatic moment, but with 100 small ones, a question at dinner here, a quiet mood on a Sunday there. Felix, who was 6 and practical in the way some small children are, wanted to know if his room would stay the same at both houses. She told him yes. He seemed satisfied with this. She was honest with them in the way she could be. Age-appropriate, warm, without villainizing their father, because whatever Callum had done to her, he was still their father, and she had no interest in making them carry that weight. It was one of the harder things she'd had to do. It was also, she thought, one of the more important ones. Her consultancy had a busy spring. She was hired to lead a public engagement process for a new mixed-income development in Scarborough. The kind of project she found genuinely meaningful. The kind where you could look at a completed thing and know that real people's lives were slightly better for it. She worked long hours. She hired a part-time assistant. She came home to her children and her house, and the cardinal that still came to the ash tree in the backyard. And she found that the house felt different now, but not in the way she had feared. It felt like hers. She didn't give any interviews. When a journalist from a Toronto publication emailed asking if she would comment on the wellness event incident, she replied politely that she didn't have anything to say. That wasn't entirely true. She had things to say. She simply chose not to say them publicly, because saying them publicly would have meant making the story the central thing about her, and she had decided some time ago that it wasn't. In June, Philippa took her to dinner at a place in Kensington Market they'd been talking about trying for 2 years. They ordered wine and shared too many dishes, and talked about work and their children and a trip to PEI that Philippa was planning for August, and whether the restaurant's sourdough was actually as good as everyone said it was. At one point, Philippa asked, not for the first time, "Are you okay?" And for the first time, Isla answered without pausing to calibrate the answer. "I think so," she said. "Most days." "That's good," Philippa said. "That's actually really good." The wine was Riesling. She hadn't particularly planned it that way. Outside, the June evening was long and warm, and the neighborhood was loud with the particular kind of noise that comes from people choosing, deliberately, to be out in the world together. She walked home. It wasn't far, 40 minutes maybe, a route she knew well, past the park and the library and the corner store, where Felix always wanted to stop for a freezy. She thought about the woman she'd been on that February night, sitting at the kitchen table with a stack of permit applications, not yet knowing that her life was in the process of becoming something different. She didn't feel sorry for that woman. She felt something more like tenderness toward her, a recognition that not knowing had been its own kind of grace, and that what came after had been, in its way, a different kind too. The house was quiet when she got home. The sitter had put the kids to bed already. She checked on them. Felix sprawled diagonally across his mattress in the way he always slept, Marin with one arm flung over her eyes as if blocking out a light that wasn't there. She made herself a cup of tea. She sat at the kitchen table. The permits could wait until morning.